And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. It's Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. 100 Watts and a Wire features the intersection of life and amateur radio. So whatever's going on in your life, how it all comes together and how ham radio fits in. And we are a motley crew tonight. We record 6 o'clock Central Time and record it and stream it out live on the YouTube. So you're welcome to always join us if you're listening to this for the first time, whether you find us on Facebook, TikTok, or Discord. However you find us, that's where we're trying to meet you. Sidecar Steve is here, and oh, Lord have mercy. This is one of those weekends, Steve. I've had... It's just... But let's talk about you first, because... it's like you've been fighting fires for like the last 36 hours, right? What's going on where you are?
Fires, traffic accidents. It's just been a whirlwind. I haven't been hit by the bus. I've been run over by the bus. And then on top of it, they backed up to run me over again. So, it's been these last few days have just been a blur. So it's, and I just got back here about 20 minutes ago from another call. So it's just been craziness, and we've been down to single digits, and you know what water and single digits,
ice,
wet, icy, slipping and sliding everywhere. It's just been fun-filled.
Well, I mean, look, for the great people, there was an article you posted in Discord about the work you've been doing all weekend, about the fire you talked about, over 1 million or more millions now of damage done where you are. How many? Up to 7 million.
It is estimated at 7 million right now at the damage.
Look, when you get people cleared from an accident, right, here we go. This is the intersection of life and amateur radio. Steve is W7UDI, by the way. I don't think I've mentioned that. I should say I've had a cocktail or two. 3:30 came a little earlier than normal. I was like, I need it. But anyway,
I need it.
When you get the people out and the damage has been done so badly that it's so bad and continuous, is there a point where the firefighting team would say we just we got to let it burn, not let it burn so much, but this is a kind of a wash here. We're going to just contain it. And how does that work when you get up to $7 million in damage?
Well, when we got to this particular incident, it was, we had two large, fully involved structures. And at that point, it's there's no point in going in and making the attack. It's we don't want to risk our personnel and cause other issues, so we just try to minimize the ongoing damage. So we protect exposures and go into what we call a defensive mode, where we just kind of, for the most part, surround and drown is what you end up doing. But you fight it from the outside, and unfortunately, you have to ride off the structure or the building or whatever it is, and then move on. It's the same thing in wildland fire. So you make tactical decisions and move on and go from there. So it's an evolving scenario. It's our game plan changed so many times early Friday morning because the scenario was changing, and it was so fluid. We kept moving, and then the piece of the final piece was when the haystack went up, and once that gets going, there's nothing you can do. There's not you can't put enough water on a haystack to put it out. It's just that one you just let burn, and it's still burning today. And it's 3 or 4 days later. Then you end up trying to tear it apart with an excavator and then try to douse it out. But other than that, you just let it burn, and it's a lot of money involved, and businesses and people's livelihood that we deal with every day. So
Well, and your time and your life and livelihood and everything is on the line when you go in to do this sort of stuff. So I know that people out there appreciate the work that you do, but you didn't get to the part where you were up all night, for several nights in a row. So anyway, for those people out there in the Pacific Northwest and all the people who are firefighters, we thank you for doing what you do, because not only do you have a normal job, a regular job, then you've got this job that you've got where you are helping people when you're not, on your leisure time, you're out there trying to save people's stuff. So there you go. Thank you, Steve. And listen, whether you're new to ham radio or you're just trying to find your people, I think finding your people is the most important thing in amateur radio itself. That's why we've kind of diversified where we've put content. We've got friends from TikTok and Facebook and, of course, Discord. Don't do a whole lot on Twitter. I kind of curate my news through Twitter, but I don't really use it for 100 as much. But we're here to try to provide you some good answers and share with you our stories of success and failures along the line. And there's enough of that going around. But first, before we get into my addiction of the weekend, let me bring in Scotty. Scotty is here. He's in Maryland. He's literally holding up the East Coast. He's KC3BXN. And how you doing tonight, sir?
Oh, hanging in there. Not as bad as Steve's been doing, but got my own little world of problems happening. Both my brother and my sister-in-law have tested positive for the Rona, and my mom lives with them in the in-law suite down in the basement, and so she's kind of isolated now. So I'll be needing to get her some things throughout the week, some groceries and stuff. So I'll be diving into that scenario. So that'll be.
She's kind of close, but not very close, right? She's not
an
very
hour
close
away. Yeah, they live about an hour from where I'm at, a little town called Frederick, Maryland, which is further out west in Maryland.
All right, we'll try to give you an hour-long podcast or something to listen to on the way out on your next trip, something like that. That you can listen
do my trip.
Well, thank you guys for coming in here. This weekend has not been eventful in the way of life kind of getting in the way. There's been a bit of an addiction, I could say. Steve has produced the video of how to make the sidecar double bazooka, and he started with the 20 meters, and it is going to be shared first with members who are supporting the show. You'll get there, and I reviewed the video, and I'm like, oh, that's neat. And I'm thinking like, oh, wow, that's an interesting shot. Wow. And then I'm like, look at his wonderful, bench. And he's so freaking neat. Like he's picking up the little pieces and putting them on the side. I'm like, I'm inspired by this. And I'm watching, like, what's he got now? And anyway, the build becomes, it unfolds in front of you of this double bazooka antenna. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to build this son of a bitch. And I'm like, I think I got some stuff. And I grabbed whatever I had around here. Wire, a little weird thing here and there. And I got addicted to it. I got to tell you, I've been in love with the double bazooka antenna. And tonight, or this episode, we're going to talk about our first ham station. So that's coming up. This is the portion where we talk about life. And it is amateur radio. But I've been addicted to other people's double bazookas now for several years. And I've pieced them out there. When I get one, I put it up like a crazy man, put it up, and I just feel like something good is happening. I'm like, yeah. Like an upgrade happened right out, And so now I'm like, you should try it. There's been this desperate fear of the center point of the antenna. And I'm like, I don't think I should be trying. And I don't think so. I don't know. But your video, Steve, really pulled back the veil of the fear. Like it motivated me to actually get out and try it. And so that was another thing. I was like, okay, and now I'm addicted to it. How much more of this coax do I have? How much more of this do I have? Can I do another one? What should I do? 80 meter? And so that was a better part of my weekend, early in the morning. And then I would prep things in the nighttime. When the kids went to bed, I would prep out some stuff. And I reviewed the video, and I'm like, yeah, he did it like that. Okay, go and do it like that. So if you're a member of 100 Watts in a Wire, you are going to be able to see that video. I don't know who's dinging. That could have been me. Don't worry about it.
That was me.
That was
me.
you.
Not
Okay,
it.
you better not let them know you're around.
Not it.
No, it wasn't. Who was it? It wasn't me. It's okay. I'm not tripping on that. If you are a member, currently a member, and you do that by going to buymeacoffee.com, and I've changed the exchange there in the link. Now it's buymeacoffee.com/100watts, and it'll take you right to the page. You can buy a cup of coffee, or you could become a member at whatever level. There's different things, and membership has its privileges, as they say. And we're going to make Steve's video available to members of 100 Watts and a Wire. And, oops, there you go. Let me get rid of that. But it's pretty easy. Just go there and you can decide if you want to buy a cup of coffee, 3 of them, 5 of them, whatever you want to do. And click away. There's a couple of different levels, and your support goes directly back to the show, and it does help. And I think you're going to enjoy this video. And one of our friends, Mark, who likes to join the show, he's in the Discord. He's another guy on the East Coast in Maryland. He taught us all these invaluable things, like the most seediest hotel room on the East Coast. All these valuable bits of information that our members provide. He said, you know what? You should have Sidecar make a video and then send it to the members, and then we can build the antenna, and maybe we'll build an extra one to donate for another month. So I thought, well, that's a cool idea anyway, and Steve had plans to make this video anyway for a while, but it exists now for the members, and we'll figure out a way. I'll probably just email a link or something like that and get it out there. And that's good. And speaking of the membership, I want to go ahead and thank some people, because without you guys, the costs are, it's just crazy. And I don't want to take any food off the family plate. So your help helps pay for these subscriptions and these different things that we have to do. Todd, November 3, Papa Kilo Juliet. John, KJ7, ZMO. Dave, AI6, Oscar United. Tim, KC8, November Bravo Tango. James, Kilo Golf 5, Lima Tango Lima. 8GRII8. And Pastor Joe, Whiskey Alpha 2, JOE. We thank you for your support of 100 Watts and a Wire this week. All of you, if you're interested, you can get the link to Steve's videos and go crazy like I did over this wackadoodle antenna. And it's not as hard as I thought, Steve. I got to tell you, it's not as hard.
Not.
I got tripped up on some things, but talk about the build. I mean, you lay it all out there, all your supplies. It's not big, clunky, and cumbersome. I think there's been a mental thing. This is a good point. I think I should make it, because after a decade in the game now, there were some things I heard early on that really kind of messed with my mind. And, an antenna tuner being one. If you need an antenna tuner, antenna ain't jack. And I was like, I got to have resonant antennas, man. I got to be perfect. Doesn't have to be perfect. So what? You use there's all these kinds of things that we have. And the double bazooka has been one of these kind of like, oh God, I don't know, man. These people at MIT designed this thing. And I'm watching Sidecar make this video, and I know you've seen it probably now, Scotty. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
Steve could have gone to MIT. Like, he could have figured this out. Like, come on. Like, but talk about it, Steve, how the build is and what you think about it.
Well, it's relatively straightforward. I mean, I was like you. I mean, I heard all these, the centerpiece is this and that. And it was like, okay. And I haven't even seen the design of the antenna in detail at the time. And so finally, when I lost my cage dipole, it was like, okay, let's try this double bazooka. And then I just went and looked it up and online and found some designs out there. I was like, oh, well, geez, this looks pretty straightforward and simple. And then it was like you, I just found, all right, what do I have here in the shop? What do I got on hand that I can, crank one of these things out? And I go, okay, I got this, I got that, I got this, I got, okay, boom. And off I went. And I just kind of, rolled my own and came up with it. And then it's like, okay, how am I going to, basically waterproof the center section, and did that. And then I was like, all right, what am I going to do to add some support to this center section? And I was like, oh, well, I got this dipole kit, or this universal kit from DX Engineering. And it's like, well, perfect. We'll go with that. And it was just one thing after another. And then I added just kind of my spin on it. And I use a lot of heat shrink on stuff. So just heat shrinked a few things. You don't have to. It's that's the neat thing about it. It's, this was my twist on it. And so the video I put together kind of showed you how I did it, but there's ideas, or, think about doing it other ways. There is, my way is not the right way. It's not the wrong way, but it's my way. And
it's the sidecar.
And then go from there. But and basically it was just to demystify this magical double bazooka antenna. And it's not that hard. It's just, easy to put together, and away you go. And now I'm toying with some ideas to where I'm going to come up with one that's going to be basically, you don't need to solder. It's going to be solderless. So I have an idea, and I just need to develop it and make a couple of prototypes, and then just beat the garbage out of it and see how well it works. And so that might be another video. We'll introduce a solderless version, but other than the connector. But I have some other ideas on that.
Okay. Well, if you have a question, you are welcome to put a Q in front of it. Drop it into the chat here. We ask all our friends on TikTok, on Discord, on Facebook, who are listening to the podcast, join us 6 o'clock Central Time. On YouTube, when we do the live stream, you're welcome to put your comments in. Now, Steve, I did get a little nutty, and I'm sure you got a nice rotation of texts, right, that you were dealing with as you were dealing with the real world and fires. And I'm going to show this to our friends who are here watching. All right, so let me go over here. Now, see these little lines coming down the screen, not the ones that are vertical, the ones that are horizontal. This had made me into a crazy person, because when I switch over to other antennas, they didn't have these lines, right? Mm-hmm. And I could hear, it was just, they were making some noise. Let me bring it up. It sounds pretty normal.
Very good. Okay, well, it's a pleasure.
The signals were great.
Thank you for the call.
And, the signals were doing fine. Everything was great. Everything sounded fine. The SWR, on the one I built, I'm 1 to 3 across the whole band, which again isn't perfect. But look, this antenna wasn't perfect for me either. It was my condition.
It was 1.3 to 1 across the band.
Across the band, which is crazy.
That is
good.
basically perfect.
I think it's pretty damn good, right? I'm like, cool, man. This is really cool. And when you're tuning back like a 20-meter antenna, you're dealing with 3 inches here. Like you may go 6, and 6 inches will define on each side where you really are. And then you're dealing with 3 inches on each side, and you're kind of pulling this in. And there was a point I got to Steve, and I said, I think I'm dealing with a matter of fractions now. Like I could probably find a sweeter spot, but this is pretty effing good. And I was dancing like I'm raising the roof. I'm like, yeah, we did it. I cursed a couple times. But this thing was tripping me out here on the radio. These horizontal lines.
Those are static crashes.
They're just.
I think that it sounds like static crash. Because see how it now. Look at the up on top of the.
Right.
Well, at the bottom of the spectrum portion, you see how the the white kind of comes up. Those are just static crashes of some sort, and it's wide band, and then that just translates to the blue line across the pan adapter there.
I'm going to tell you what I did because I got nutty. I've got 2 other antennas that can do 20. One is serving north to south. This one is serving east to west. I'm in the middle of the country. I'm out here in the heartland, right? So I'm like, the other 2 aren't doing this, man. They're not really giving it to me. and I'm like, what's going on? What did I do? Did I not solder something correctly? Signal reports, everything, like signal strength is strong. The SWR is great. I'm like, maybe I did something wrong. And then I swapped out. My hands effing hurt, y'all. I messed around with this antenna. I'm like gimped up. I'm like Fred Sanford right now. I'm pulling this rope up and down, up and down. I'm like, what did I do? I changed out. I built a second double bazooka. This is how easy Steve's build made it. I made a second one, put this one up there to try it, and it was doing the same thing, right? These static crashes were coming through the nighttime too, and I'm like, this is just freaking me out. Like, it's not on these other antennas. What did I do? Son of a... And Steve's firefighting for 48 hours straight. Like, I don't know what to do. I just suck at this.
I'm messing up the build.
I don't know what I did wrong. I'm deleting all these great videos I made. Like, stupid picture, stupid antenna. So today I went out and I swapped the coax, right? I swapped out the coax. And the coax has been up for a long time. And I just took it out anyway. I got a slightly better SWR reading on this coax. I'm like, this is kind of wacky, but it's still doing these static crashes. And then it hits me, you guys. It hits me because, 10 years is just 10 years. It's not 40, 45, 60 years in this thing. I switch over to 40 north to south that's serving east-west on all my other antennas. Wouldn't you know it?
The same thing.
80 meters, it's doing the same shiz. 40 meters, it's in there doing the same thing. 160, I click over there and like I put in all this time, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Everything that's facing this direction, serving east to west, is getting this happening across it. I felt like a huge dick. So part of me was like very happy, but other parts were like, what is wrong with you, idiot? So it didn't come without some
This is the learning process. This is how we learn.
Speak about it.
Yeah, we pull our hair out that we don't have any left, and we figure it out and work our way through it, and it's part of the learning process and in life, and it's awesome. It was
I'm
crazy. Glad you went through that, and it and you'll remember it, and now it's when you mentor someone else, it's going to be, I went through that before, and that's what it is. And
I was looking for something. There was a part of me I was just waiting around. I'm like, I'm going to take this effing antenna down. Like when I didn't have the answer, I'm like, what did you do? Did you solder this right? Like, I'm thinking back, I'm replaying it over. I'm like, did you do something wrong? I'm like, nah, the solder was all pretty solid. I thought I did a good job, and like even better on the second one. That's the one that's up there and now. Yeah. Because I did it once. There is a little trick. You got to get it, the position just right. And you'll see, members will see this video as soon as we can get it out to you guys. You'll see it. It's so easy to do. Even a guy like me can figure it out. But that weird static crash thing, and I obsessed over it. But we're okay now. I figured it out.
And so Christian is texting me, and I'm on this call.
I could feel it, like, here, F you, boy.
I'm getting these, F you. These periods of time where I have a little break, and I'm reading.
People are dying. Millions of dollars, you idiot. It's static crashes.
And I'm just, whoa, yeah, that's not working, huh? Interesting. And I'm like, that can't be solder or this or that. It's working.
Mark says his OCD. That's the thing. I don't know if it was, but I thought, why am I seeing that on only one antenna? And then today I put this thing up, and then I turned on the other two. The one that is the Wyndham that you sent to me, and the other is just a dipole, and it's serving north and south, which isn't a bigger, east to west is kind of my money because I'm right in the middle. It's kind of what I'm really focused on. And as I was looking closely, those static crashes were there, but they were just
not as pronounced.
Right. And I'm like, this thing has elevated, it's a big, go ahead.
So one of the biggest benefits of the double bazooka, it's not going to give you any more gain than a dipole. If you think it's going to make you a better transmit antenna, throw that out with the bathwater, because it won't. It's just a dipole basically. But what it does, the benefit of the double bazooka that I have found, that it reduces your noise floor by 2 S units. It just, if you have a noise floor that's S3, once you put this antenna, it's pretty consistent that it will drop your noise floor about two S units, give or take. And and what you have seen is now the antenna is what everyone kind of calls the quieter antenna, and now you're hearing weaker signals, and now your radio is really going to start to sync. It's no different than a skywave loop or full wave loop. The double bazooka, in its simplistic term, is a loop antenna with tuning stubs on the end. That is basically what the antenna is, and now you get to hear, and you saw the difference between the Wyndham and the double bazooka. That the Wyndham, the static crashes were there, but they were really, really minute. But when you go on the double bazooka, it was a little bit more pronounced because the antenna is a much quieter antenna. And awesome. I'm glad it's working. And that's one sign of the antenna working, and the low, the VSWR also. And that's the key.
Oh, it's so great. And I appreciate that video. Like, this is the one thing about Elmering, man. This show probably should have been called the Double Bazooka Build. I probably should have, the mentoring teaching part is the hands-on stuff. This is exactly why I use YouTube. We're a show. We talk about amateur radio. We have a good time. We build community. We encourage each other, and it's accepting and opening. At least that's how I like to think of it. But when I dig into YouTube, it's to learn how to do things like this. If I want to build a dipole, this is the kind of video I think that can open people up to new things. Mm-hmm. And so I'm grateful for that. Our existing members will be able to receive this. So if you want to be a member, check out buymeacoffee.com/100 watts. Look around, see what works for you. And we'll make this video available for you and others to come. We've got ideas to come. And so there you go. We're just trying to keep this community supported content for you guys. And speaking of this, we talked about in November, members that joined up in November, we're going to get a sidecar, Steve, double bazooka 20-meter antenna. And we're going to announce that winner here tonight. The winner is Michael, November 1, X-Ray, Romeo. Michael, N1XXR. He became a member in, I believe, November, but definitely during the time of November. And so he's going to pick up the exclusive sidecar Steve W7UDI double bazooka 20-meter
the antenna
version.
In the video. That's the build. So
even better.
Build the only thing I haven't done with it, it's all built, is throw it up on out between my towers and give it a quick tune-up. But you know what, Michael? You get to do that.
You get to do the tune-up, and that's awesome. Yeah. And then you'll have the video if you want to try to make your own. The tuning of it, I think it's fun. I sent Steve a text, hopefully before the fire started, because we were communicating early. I think it was Saturday morning, and I said to him, "Why can't this be a job? Like, I love this. I love it. I'm in here. I'm in here, and I've got an apron on. I've got the soldering gun. I've got a cigarette. I don't smoke. Just kidding. It's just, you can imagine this is a workroom, right? It's a cigar.
Got your bib on, says "Kiss the Technician."
And clip and snippity snip.
Did you have your coffee with you?
Oh, I had coffee. I totally thought about that in the video. He said, "You got to have your coffee." I'm like, "Some bitch, I got my coffee right here. What comes next?" It was so much fun, the build. About 19-minute video. You put it up, and, I think the tuning thing is that, if you leave enough length on there for whoever, it's going to play differently. I wasn't expecting a one-to-one, you know what I mean, at all. I was not, because my situation's different. I'm not by a fence or anything like that with the noise. I'm out in the woods at least 150 feet, if not 200 feet away from anything. The only thing nearby is other antennas, and it's never been a thing. So this was all sun, atmospheric stuff. But, tune it up for what you need it for. It'll be long enough for your situation, and if you got to wrap it back on itself, cool. You know what I mean? That's all good. But congratulations to Michael, who's here tonight, by the way. So welcome and thank you for your support, Michael. We appreciate you.
Congrats, Mike.
Absolutely. Congratulations. Nice.
All right. We got some other business to take care of, too, because people are like, what's going on? How are we going to know about stuff if y'all don't teach us? You'll figure it out. But let's talk about some history here. This week, we were just lowercase g's back in this day, 1890. Edvard Branly. He was a French physicist. You've learned about him, I'm sure. Coined the term radio conductor. It was the first use of the word radio. So we owe him a little bit because I love radio. So cool word, dude. Thank you, Mr. Branly. His work led to the invention of the first radio wave detection device, though the coherer. Variations of the coherer were the basis of early radio reception until 1907 when Steve was born. When it was replaced by crystal detectors, we played with those when we played stickball out in the sandlots. December 6, 1923, President Coolidge. That was your first election, wasn't it, Steve? No, I had to. Oh, it was, yeah, 1923, sure. His President Coolidge made his first presidential address on U.S. radio. Steve looks great for all these miles, for sure. He's only been up for about 60 hours straight. So we better tuck him in here before too long.
36 to 48 to 60, man.
I just look over and I'm like, shoot, 72. Yeah, we're gonna whole damn month. He was just.
Do we got 96? Do I hear a 96?
I know you were up all night though. I know you did an all-nighter and then you were back up, and by the next afternoon you were at it again.
I had a few periods of 1 or 2 hours and then back at it again. So.
All right. There must be no events going on now. The end of the year, nobody cares to do any events, right? Come on. What's going on?
Well, wrong. We do have a couple things going on. One of which I will be building a sidecar double bazooka with some scrap 75 ohm from the studio. Good stuff too. It's double shielded, tightly knit copper braid.
Get ready to bleed. You're gonna bleed.
Fabulous.
Pokey,
we have
pokey.
the December 10th and 11th next weekend. The ARRLD 10 meter contest, CW and phone is happening. Building the bazooka for double bazooka for that. Hopefully with my brother if he's feeling better from the Rona.
Mm-hmm.
Also, December 9th and 10th, the International Naval Contest, CW and single sideband phone. It's international. It's sponsored this year by the Italian Naval Old Rhythmers Club. Oh man, those are the two events that are happening this coming weekend.
All right, very good.
In the ether waves.
All right, we like to be community supported. We talked about buying me a coffee. Got a benefit, some benefits there already, but another benefit for the people who signed up in the month of November. Michael's here. He won a sidecar original antenna, and maybe we'll do something for December too. Have to figure it out. We get this video circulated. I think other people may make 2 of them and maybe donate 1. And hey, send it off. We'll give it away if it doesn't work, and whatever. We'll get a report on how it does. So Michael, you might be on the hook when you get this up. Let's see how it's playing. Come on the show and talk about that sort of stuff. So you know how to do it now. All right. Let me bring that down here. This week, we're going to talk about our first radios, and I want to hear what you guys are working with. If you're in our chat here now, we're talking about your first radios, our first ham stations. And Steve, we'll let Seniority go first here in the in-house crew. Can you remember back then to your first radio, and maybe you could talk a little bit about what your goals were? What did you want to do radio antenna wise?
Everything. I was a teenager. I just, like every teenager, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed. We want to do it all. I wanted to do everything and anything in the hobby, but I didn't have the funds. Mm-hmm. It was, I only had a paper route money or something like that. And so I cobbled together, a pretty basic station, help from a neighbor. And my first HF radio was an old military radio called an ARC 2, and it was a transceiver, big old clunky thing, and it was huge. And at the house that I grew up, there was literally a shed out in the backyard, and it was the shack. My dad said, "Hey, put your radio stuff out there," and set it all up. We had power out to that place, and lo and behold, it was the true shack. And it was cold in the wintertime, but it was kind of fun there. So during my novice days, I used this ARC 2 to, pound out CW, and then eventually I got my technician license, and then kind of ventured over more into the 2-meter VHF, UHF world, and then it just continued on there. But an old military piece of equipment at the house, and at the high school, when in our electronics class, we had an ARC 5, which is just a transmitter, and 40 meters ARC 5, and someone donated us an old Heathkit Apache receiver, and this thing was huge. It was massive. But between that, the ARC 5, the Apache receiver, and a Dow key, and a J38 straight key, we went to town. So those were the two early stations that I got involved in when I started back in '03.
Yeah, look, I mean, like it was a whole different day. Did you think about tubes, like keeping tubes on hand, because I have the vision in my mind that like you were blowing tubes all the time, or there was a risk of one. And I think about a kid with a paper route, like thinking about how precious each component of this radio was and not wanting to mess it up.
I mean, it was that material was available, like the ARC 5s and ARC 2s and the components for it, because growing up in Pasadena, California, we had this great surplus place called C&H Surplus, and it just had everything. It was a plethora of stuff. And then we had Dow Radio, which was an electronics store up the road on Colorado Boulevard that was just fantastic. It was between C&H Surplus, Dow Radio, Rat Shack or Radio Shack, and Lafayette Radio, which was all within a few miles of each other. A kid on a bicycle on a Saturday afternoon could, hit all the stores, and we went to Radio Shack, got our free batteries, and then we went to here, and then and if I needed components, you got it from everywhere. So I was really lucky on getting stuff when it came to components. But those ARC 5s and 2s were pretty bulletproof, and never really had any real issues with them back then.
Scotty, what about you? What was your first rig? What was your first setup?
It started off with a Baofeng UV5R that I've talked about before. My first HF radio was a Yaesu FT 450D, which I still have. And so when I racked it up and I take it, it's my portable rig, my POTA or camping or going to my brother's for field day sort of rig. So, and it was being the situation where I live, and I didn't really know too much about antennas at the time. I ended up with a ham stick dipole on a microphone stand out on this little flat roof area that I have, and that's what I blew up the finals in the 450 with. Learning about trying to tune things with too much power, and poof. But that's how I learned my lesson.
Cool.
That was my first rig.
All right, some folks are sharing theirs as well here in the chat. Thank you for doing that as well. We've got some answers coming off of social. Real quick, though, want to let you know that we've got a sponsor this week. If you're looking for a power solution, check out BioNO Power, offering the best lithium phosphate batteries for your ham radios. Visit bionopower.com. That's BIOENNO power.com. And, of course, we want to be community supported. We thank BioNO Power for running with us at least 3 years maybe now, and they make some solid stuff. I'm always using that stuff when I'm portable, anytime I'm outside of the shack, and sometimes when I'm in the shack. Kick it. And there's even more. Scotty, you got more information? Hamfest must be finished. They must be eating Christmas cookies and hot dogs and the mix and milk of magnesia. It's that time of year.
Milk and magnesia. That reminds me of my grandmother. There's one Hamfest that I came across. Tampa Bay Hamfest in the West Central Florida ARRL Section Convention. Of course, it'd be in Florida, right?
Nice.
Wow, Florida, yeah. They're
December
kinda keeping it
9th.
going.
Nice. Yeah, they got it going on year round, 9th and 10th. A couple special event stations that you come across. We have WX3 MAS out of Nazareth, Pennsylvania, on December 8th through the 11th. December 2nd through the 12th, Pearl Harbor Day Commemoration Station. It's Whiskey 2 Whiskey, and that's from the National Electronics Museum here in lovely Linthicum, Maryland, right down literally 10 minutes down the road from me. And December 8th through the 11th, the final moon landing of Apollo 17 special event station. Kilo 5 Alpha out of Springdale, Arizona. So,
Well, good.
what's
Well,
up.
thank you. Thank you for that. And I want to share some of the social media responses. My first rig, I've talked about it on the show quite a bit, was the Drake TR7. I did have some HTs, as Scotty has outlined, so I know that that's probably officially my first. I did save up for an ICOM something 92D, I think, because it had D-Star, and I put a lot of money into that thing, knowing that I wasn't quite ready for HF yet. But then I started building that, what they call a slush fund, and, I was robbing the liquor stores or whatever, and, small holdups and, things I could get away with, that kind of stuff. And got myself a Drake TR7, and it's been my girl. I got it. We got to do a night where we get on the air with the old radios. Whatever old radio we've got, we should be running them. And the Drake's like, yeah, I hear you talking, bitch, but you ain't even turned me on. Exercise the things. I hear you tell all the kids, exercise the
passes are all
things.
dried out now.
You're going to have to get some deoxit. You want me to go running, and then what? You're going to put power in me, too? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'd love a night. I'd love a night like that. Heat up
That
the
would be
old
fun.
girl and get it on. But,
I got
yeah,
some tubes to glow too. Yeah.
we could do it. We just have to pick the time and do it. Maybe around the holidays is good. Kind of get the old radios on if we could do that. Let's think about
That'd be
that.
excellent.
We can try to do that. If you have a question, put a Q in front of it here. We've got questions lined up I want to get to, but I do want to share a couple of responses from our friends that were over on Facebook. James said his first radio was an Alinco DX10. It was 25 watt, 10 meter rig, two 10 meter ham sticks set as a horizontal dipole, 20 feet in the air. Back in 2016. Fred says he had an FT101ZD, the MK3 with an MFJ Mark III with a 949B tuner, 3-element 10 meter Yagi, and 150 foot of random wire, and a Cushcraft R5. He's N2XK. That sounds like he thought about that. That sounds like a rig, man. John says, Christmas of 1992, my parents bought me a Kenwood TH28A HT. Shortly thereafter, I bought the speaker mic and made my first antenna 2-meter VHF using an SO239 coax flange from Radio Shack and a coat hanger. This allowed me to go portable or base with the same radio. He's AC2 JK. Buddy says he got a Bofang, a UV5R. He got the N9 TAX roll-up hanging in a tree. He's Kilo 5 Mike Charlie Kilo. David, he says his first radio was a Yaesu FT212 mobile 2-meter and 2-meter copper J-pole antenna and a tape measure 3-element beam. Okay. And Neil
Those
says...
are cool antennas.
Those little, those things you wouldn't think they'd work, but they do.
They
really
work
do.
great.
1959, Neil got a Hammerlin receiver. Reminds me of my father. Thank you, Neil. He has a Hammerlin. I have it sitting here. It's beyond repair. He had a flood. And it got the sign of the cross, what the priests do. Someone high up in the ham radio world was like, no, that's now a paperweight. Like, okay. He was like, you could buy a totally refinished one for about $130. I was like, okay. I'm just going to keep it, though. You know, as my dad, I'll keep it around. He's like, you can't fix that. But yeah, Hammerlin receiver and a homemade transmitter, crystal-controlled 6V6 oscillator into a 40-meter dipole. Lived in Biloxi and worked a station in New Orleans. Best contact in my 63 years as a ham. He's Whiskey Zero Papa, Mike Lima. So there you go. I want to get to some of our questions. Thank you all for that, though. If you have questions and you want us to get to them, you can read all of these replies. Our first radio's house special. Please share this information when you check into the Sunday 100 Watts in a Wire net at 7 o'clock Central Time. Let the guys know what you are running. Ask them what they were running, what they're running today. And that's a good conversation, I think. We have a couple of questions, and we can start with the ones we have here. James says, this week I'm going to be, reimage my 2013 Mac Air. What program should I install to run FT8? He's Kilo Golf 5 Lima, Tango Lima. By the way, you're 5'9". Anybody got an answer for a Mac? You guys are both Mac guys. Scotty?
Sure, yeah,
Scotty?
I'm a Mac guy. I'm running a WS JTX, the legit program for FT8 on my 2010 MacBook Pro.
You got to work on that.
OS
I tried
El Capitan, OS 10, what was that, 1012, 1013
I'll have to
High
talk
Sierra.
to you about that.
Yeah,
I tried putting it on a
working fine.
2011 MacBook Pro, and it didn't want to fly, and my 2011 Air, and it didn't want to fly. So I just figured there was something I didn't do right. But
no, I have it running on my 2010 MacBook Pro. Running an old OS is OS 10. I want to say 1012 El Capitan, or that 1013. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, see, I'm running a newer version, so maybe that's the problem. So.
I think you might have to go with more of a sort of a legacy version. Also has something to do with the way that the allocates. There's a weird memory allocation thing that you got to type in terminal to run some command to get it to allocate memory for FT8. But I have it working. You can hit me up privately on the Discord. Cool. I will be happy to give you some insights into that. I'll fire up the machine and see what I'm doing to make it work. I don't really remember.
I got a question.
It can be done.
Steve, with that thing, when I was obsessing over the static crashes, as you can, let's see.
They're there.
I mean, they're there. You can see they're coming. Mm-hmm. Now, if I would have screwed up this antenna, or I would not have soldered it properly, there would have been other issues, right? Like the SWR, it would have just not.
The SWR would have been off the charts. You probably wouldn't. It wouldn't be hearing, or you wouldn't be receiving as well as you are now.
Okay.
So there would be other issues, but SWR would be the first one. As you swept it, you would have seen that it's like, hey, this is not resonating in where you expected it to be. So.
Okay. So I was thinking, like, if I would have butchered this thing and messed up the soldering, I would have known something. But the signal reports, guys were 20 over. I'm like, man, it sounds great. It's louder than everything else. Anyway, not to harp on that, but a little, I guess, OCD. Somebody who said that might be right. I don't know. Another question from Greg.
You built it in the wintertime. And
I put that sumbitch up 21 degrees. I'm like, I'm going out there. I look like the Michelin Man. I'm like pulling these ropes. I'm like, Actually, I probably did not have enough on, but, my hands were sore and I'm gripping and I'm like, wear gloves, children. Everybody wear gloves when you can. But when I tie off, I gotta take them off because I need to be able to feel that rope. Anywho, Greg has a question for this build here. Do you use regular heat shrink or the glue-lined stuff?
I use regular. Just I've used the glue-lined stuff, but I don't have any, and so I just have lots of the standard heat shrink.
I've got to get the small stuff. I've got the bigger stuff that you would heat shrink over, like a coax connector, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I need that stuff that can go over like 14 gauge wire, like that. The coax to wire thing that you did on the build. That's the kind of stuff I need.
You can also do multi-step, so you can have like a small one that kind of comes up the wire and covers partial of the connection, and then have your larger piece come down, and then you kind of stair step it. So
layers
you
on
just
it.
kind of use what you got and run from there.
All right.
And you don't need a lot of exotic tools, as you saw. It was
It's
pretty
great.
basic.
I loved it. I'm addicted to it. Now I'm like, I got to find more of this coax. I know I have it around here, but I've got chunked out pieces of coax that I've pulled out of service, and I don't know. I got to test them. They're kinked up. I'm like, I don't know, man. But I'm like, I'm addicted to building this stuff. And once you get to building things, you know how it can be. Now I need 16 of them. So I'm going to try to build one too. And maybe in the month of December, if not December, January, we'll figure out something to give away. We don't have to give something away every month to members. It's just a cool thing. But maybe a current member will see this video. Once we send it out, you'll make 2 and offer 1 up for the next month. I don't know. Just an idea.
Or pass it along to a new ham that
Pass it
comes
on,
around.
man.
I'm stoked to now have something to use all this high quality 75 ohm coax around the studio that we used to use for clock signals for the house sync, for the black burst, for the color sync and the video. There's miles of this stuff that's just abandoned above Studio B.
Hey, can you
And
maybe
it's
give me like
now I have
about
something to
100,
do.
150 feet? Can you give me 200 feet? Like I'm feeding it. Hey, man, can you give me about
We
200
got-
feet?
we got tons of it.
I got a
And
box.
So when
I'm not
you
sure
make
it's
your
not-
160 meter antenna, I think the coax length's like 174 feet
I
or
should
something
try.
like
I should
that.
try. Okay, so I'm gonna need 500 feet or something like that.
Dynamite!
Yeah, he agreed to it. Ishmael has a question. Is there a video for the double bazooka build that Steve did? Yes, the sidecar Steve build will be released to our members first as a member type of privilege. Hopefully they'll get to building, and at some point we'll leak it out. Like a master of the Beatles recording.
Throw it up on YouTube or something.
We'll put it out at some point. I think it'll be a very popular one, but we're going to let our members, current members, get first cracks at it for the support. We appreciate you like that. All right, we got another question to go to here in the book, and here comes. What's the best coax to use on 2 meters and 440? Marvin would like to know.
So a lot will depend when we're dealing with 2 meters 440 is how long is your run going to be, Marvin? And but if it's going to be under under 100 feet or something like that, LMR 400 is more than adequate. So once you start getting into long runs, now you have to start thinking about like heliacs but if you want, super low loss, then you're talking about 5/8 or 7/8 inch hard line or inch and 5/8. I mean, but that's big, expensive stuff. But
This is
for
so
just your,
sexy. You're saying all these sexy things.
but
Girl.
but for your standard, station at your house and at home, you're just LMR 400
I
will
want
be
you
adequate.
to call me Heliax.
Heliax.
Oh, my name is Heliax, girl. Okay, it's just such a great word. Next question, budget of $100. Antenna analyzer or a good watt meter? Philip wants to know how you would spend 100 ducats.
I would go with the watt meter because that's your super basic, simple tool. It if it has a forward and a reverse, there's your SWR, and it's good to have a watt meter. That's like having your DVM. It's the basics, and an analyzer is great, but you know what? With an analyzer, you can only see what the VSWR of an antenna, but with a watt meter, you can see how much power your radio is putting out. You can see how much power is coming back. You can figure it out. There's formulas on how to determine what the VSWR is, but basically, here's 2 numbers to remember: 10% and 25% is reflected power. So if it's 10%, it's 2 to 1. So if you're putting 100 watts forward, you got 10 watts back. It's basically 2 to 1. If you have 100 watts forward and you have 25 watts coming back, then that is 3 to 1. So 10% and 25%. Those are the two numbers. Remember those, and if it's below 10%, then you're below 2 to 1. And with a analyzer, you'll get that with the testing the antenna, but with the watt meter, you can monitor your VSWR all the time. So, and it's a basic piece of test equipment. Ideally both, Philip, but start with the watt meter and then go with an analyzer later.
All right. Well, thank you for that question. Another number to remember, 8675-309.
309, yeah.
Is that 309? 8675?
8675-309.
309. See, you got to remember it. No wonder she never answered. So many years. 8675309. Damn. Oh, well. I've held it all this time. Art's here. He's got a question. I have 64 feet of end fed. How tight should the wire be? Art's talking about when he ties it off.
Oh, you want to go for a high C or you want to go for a low D? No. Keep it loose. If you make it tight, I'll guarantee it will snap. Especially if it's tied to a tree or something like that.
Too tight.
But don't get too hung up on it. Oh, it has to be flat or anything. If there's a bow and everything, I'll allow it to be there. Give it some flexibility, and because if you get it banjo string tight, it will break.
All right, I think we have time for another one here. Is it possible to have different noise floors on two different radios? Tony wants to know. There's a bit of a backstory. Maybe I can fill you in real quick. He was at a son's house or his brother's house, and he just had the two different radios, same antenna, plugged it in. They both had two different noise floors. He was wondering if a radio was actually on the fritz or whatever. Yeah.
So a receiver generates internal noise. So our receivers, they're called super heterodyne receivers. Basically, they mix an oscillator to mix down to, and you'll probably hear a term IF or intermediate frequency. So depending on the receiver, what bands you are, there's going to be one or two IFs in a receiver. So like a 2-meter radio, UHF radio, will have basically two IFs. So they'll have either like a 10.7 or 11.7 would be the first IF, or the first oscillator offset. So you get a 10.7 or 11.7, depending on the receiver design, but not all, it's not that all receivers. And then it will go back down to 455 kilohertz. So that will be another one. And the way they achieve that is that you have an oscillator, you have a mixer, and then this signal coming in is mixed with the oscillator. And then you get some products, so a sum, a difference, and then the original two frequencies. Well, that mixing process, there's noise generated. That's one stage. Your low-level amplifier stages, the front end of the radio has these low-level amplifiers, and they generate noise. Your IF stages generate noise. So depending on the radio, some radios will have a little bit more inherent noise versus another one. And then you might have some other, IMD products, but for the basics is, yes, you can have two different radios which have two different noise floors, because it's just the nature of the radio design and the components that they're using and how old they are, because capacitors age. Scotty made a comment about, capacitors drying out, and as older radios have components that they will dry out, namely capacitors, and so that changes, how circuitry works. So that's in a nutshell.
All right, well, cool. I could tell Scotty is curious. We've got some gremlins creeping around our audio our signal tonight. He's looking around like, what the hell is it? It's a fly getting ready to. It's like a fly getting ready to
drying out,
getting ready to land in the potato salad. He's like, what the hell? Get that thing. Get it. Where's that? What is it
Turning
now?
things down. I'm watching meters. I'm like, who's got?
Yeah,
whose
I don't know
audio
where
is this?
that
Whose
poppy
audio
is coming from, but the guys and myself, we've worked a lot this week. Life is definitely squeezing it out of us as we head to the end of the year. So we're going to rest the horses, and we'll join the net. We'll listen to the net as it's in progress tonight, and we will bid farewell to our podcast listening audience. We'd like to know what you're struggling with, what topics you'd like us to discuss. We always pick something general and then fill in the parts with life and what things have been going on. We've got real issues. Scotty with his family dealing with the Ronahan and fires going on and wearing a good man out. So, and this is another week, boy. This week's going to be something else around the workplace for me too. And I think once we get over this hump, we'll be ready for some vacation time moving in. So another good, strong week. I hope you guys have a great one. And hopefully this gets you to your next destination safely. We appreciate your support and listening to us. Go work the guys. If you're here in the room, go find the guys on the Discord. It'll be posted in Facebook, but that's still going to happen here. And our podcast listeners, we appreciate you. 73 to Steve, thank you for giving me a new addiction. I don't know, man. I don't even want to look at the miles I spent running in and out of this house, looking at meters and half an inch here, half an inch
see
there.
how many steps you've done.
I swear to God, there was a moment where I'm like, yeah, let me pull it back 6 inches. And I went back out, I'm like, nope, got to go back out 3 inches. Just give it 3 inches. And I'm like, this is like my friggin' prom night. Just three, is it? Just give me 3. Can I give you just 3? How about the tip? How about a high five? All right, that's it. No, nothing. Damn. 73, Steve, rest up, man. I hope you have a great one.
7-3. Oh, yeah.
And Scotty, I hope everything works out. Keep your mom safe, and I'm sure your strong brother and sister-in-law will be fine chasing those goats and chickens around.
Yeah, I think it'll be good, and I'm looking forward to taking a toke off my first double bazooka later this week.
Oh,
Nice.
it's addictive, man. I'm going to make another one, but I got to find some more supplies.
I'm gonna
Y'all be
turn
good.
into a
Take care of
double-
yourself.
Double bazooka junkie.
Oh, man. 7-3, y'all. Be good. Take care.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsinawire.com.